This is the 46 of 46 podcast Summit Sessions, where we'll talk all things Adirondack, backcountry, and beyond. From high peak stories and adventures to trail tips and tricks, we'll dive deep into the heart of these mountains and the people who passionately climb them. Adirondack maps and spruce traps, bushwhacks and backpacks. It's all here on the 46 of 46 Summit Sessions. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Summit Sessions here on the 46 of 46 podcast. I hope you all had a lovely Easter and you're enjoying these early days of spring. The snow is definitely trying to melt here in the Adirondacks, but as we all know, winter hangs on a lot longer here in the mountains than elsewhere. But spring is definitely on its way. So with that in mind, we're going to throw it right back to winter. Why not? Back to the snow and the below freezing temperatures. Cold, snowy, and below freezing temperatures. Winter sounds a lot like spring here in the High Peaks region, that's for sure. But anyways, this week I'll be talking with a father-son hiking duo from Cooperstown, New York, who recently completed a winter thru-hike of the 138-mile Northville-Placid Trail right here in the Adirondacks. And in doing so, set the unsupported FKT, also known as the fastest known time, of the route, completing the trail in 7 days, 9 hours, 0 minutes, starting March 8th and finishing March 15th, 2021, where they averaged 17.25 miles a day. And don't forget, those are winter miles too. Absolutely amazing stuff. And if you're not familiar with the NPT, there are lots of older episodes here on this podcast about the trail, including an 8-episode season where I chronicled my entire hike of the Northville-Placid Trail start to finish, so you can check those out. But today we're going to hear yet another adventure story across that same trail. My guest this week, Tim Horvath, and his 15-year-old son Henry Horvath have some very impressive hiking resumes themselves. Tim, at 27 years old, became the youngest American to summit Mount Kanchenjunga, the third tallest peak in the world after Everest and K2. Oh, and speaking of Everest, Tim has also summited that little peak back in 2004, and he attempted K2 in 2008. And his 15-year-old son has already summited Mount Whitney, the tallest peak in the continental United States, and he's hiked the John Muir Trail. But these two are with me tonight to take us through their entire winter thru-hike of the Northville-Placid Trail day by day and give us a small glimpse to what a winter thru-hike across the most remote land in the Adirondack Park really looks like. Tim and Henry, welcome to the 46 of 46 podcast, and a big congratulations to both of you on your NPT accomplishment.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
For having us, James.
Absolutely. So you are, at this point, as we record this, you're less than 3 weeks removed from completing the thru-hike. Have you both recovered by now? And another question, have you both been back in the woods since you finished?
Yeah, for me, I've definitely noticed that, I'm feeling fit and I'm feeling good. So in that aspect, I'm recovered. I've been going for runs and stuff like that. The only thing I haven't recovered is my feet. I can tell I still have blisters, although they've pretty much calloused up and they're just still healing a little bit. And as for the second question, I've not been in the woods since we finished.
Sure. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, so it took a few days for my swelling in my feet to go down, and I had fewer blisters than Henry, but certainly still had a few. So that took a few, about 4 or 5 days, and then I was pretty much set. But I haven't been doing too much exercise since then. In fact, today was one of the first days I actually went for a 6-mile run. And I haven't been back in the woods since then because obviously there's a lot of work to catch up on and everything else.
Sure.
One of these.
Everyday life stuff to catch on to. Now, if you could go back in the woods right now, would you want to, or do you also feel that, I need a little break from the woods right now? How do you feel mentally in that regard?
After doing what we did, you definitely need a little bit of a hiatus
Sure.
from going out in the woods, just because it's a lot all at once. And then you kind of want to break, but then it starts to call you back. Like, you definitely want to go back, maybe if it's not even for overnight, just for like a little day hike or something.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, these kind of trips. So I'm Henry's dad. I'm 50. Henry's 15. So a lot of this stuff it's a lot of winter camping skills, and for him, I think it's definitely more. It's a little. These kind of trips I've done a lot of. I've done the
Mm-hmm.
long trail in the winter. I spent 10 days on that back in 2004, and I've done. I like climbing a little more, and things that have that are a little more mentally. Not that this wasn't mentally challenging, but things that are a little more technical, I suppose. So I'm used to more ice climbs and rock climbs and mountain peaks involved. So this was more. I've done a lot of this before, so I wasn't so anxious at. It wasn't as. It's not as interesting to me. So overall, it's not as stimulating, I guess I should say. So I am looking forward to other adventures that are maybe more in the mountains.
Sure. Sure, I could totally relate to that. After I finished this trail, I said that was a great experience. I had a ton of fun. It was a blast for what it was, and I was very ready to climb a mountain again, though, but by the end of it. So I can totally relate to that. Now, here's another quick question before we dive into things. What was the first hot meal you guys had when you came out of the woods on the last day? After 8 days in the woods during the winter.
Sure. It was pizza, actually. We were able to each grab, I think I had like 4 slices from a place in Lake Placid, which unfortunately I don't remember the name of.
Perfect. Probably no better post-hike meal than a nice hot pizza. Good call.
No. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just dive into it. So before we start about the trail, let's just get a little background about both of you. We'll start with you, Tim. Obviously, we know Henry got his outdoors kind of lifestyle from you, but tell us about yourself. How'd you get into the outdoors, and just give us a little background on yourself in revolving around the outdoors.
Sure. So I grew up in Cherry Valley, New York, and my family, although they were outside, gardening and a small farm and some animals and stuff, that no one was really into hiking and camping. And that started early for me, really, when I was probably 6 or 7. I was sleeping in the backyard in tents and stuff. And it really progressed to the first time I really started to feel my freedom is when I started riding my bicycle further and further. Even when I was 11 and 12, I'd start riding at 15, 20 miles, 25 miles, and I'd go to different areas, maybe Cooperstown, which was maybe 15 miles away, and I just started feeling that freedom. And so through high school, I would plan with a friend of mine bicycle trips in the summer where we would start to go to the Adirondacks, and we would grab our camping gear and basically bike tour. And it really culminates in when I was 17 with a bike. We biked around Lake Ontario. We did 700 miles in a week. So that was great. But the whole time I'm on my bike and sucking exhaust fumes from cars passing me, I would say to myself, I don't really, everyone that can sit in a car is seeing what I'm seeing. I want to get off the beaten path a little more. So that really transpired into, I had the camping gear, and I'm like, wow, if I bought a canoe or a backpack, I could really start to get into the backcountry more. So I did both of those things. I bought myself a used canoe and a backpack, and started more of the hiking and backpacking and canoe camping. And it really just transgressed into into what happened was I'd have summer jobs. I was really busy, so I had more and more time during after high school. I'd have more time in the winter, so I started winter camping in the Adirondacks, and then I moved out to Montana to go to college at the University of Montana, and there I learned to rock climb and ice climb and climb bigger mountains out there. So that's really where a lot of my mountaineering skills came from. And then from there, I climbed Mount Rainier, and I did a trek in Pakistan. Then I climbed Denali, and then I was down South America, did some other Himalayan peaks. I had an expedition to Lhotse, which is the fourth highest peak. That was in 1996 when the famous book Into Thin Air was written. I met John Krakauer, Rob Hall, Ed Viesters. It was like this all-star season there. And unfortunately, the disaster happened on Everest that year. That same storm, I was high on Lhotse, going for Lhotse summit, but neglected the summit because the storm was coming in. And then after Lhotse, it seems I was doing every other year. I was trying to do a smaller peak, meaning something in Alaska or something in South America, and then a big peak, one of the 8,000 meter peaks. So with those, I did Lhotse. I attempted. I think today I'm still the youngest person that has summited Kanchenjunga, which is the third highest peak in the world.
Youngest American.
Yeah, the youngest American. We did the difficult North Face. That was in 1998. And then I summited Everest in 2004, and I attempted K2 in 2008. So with all those things, I've ice climbed, rock climbed, done a multitude of other peaks and routes in other areas, and I've just kind of have brought Henry up always hiking and backpacking and camping. So I'll turn it over to Henry.
Yeah, that's an impressive life outdoors that you've led. Amazing, and it's kind of no wonder that Henry is outside as well. So yeah, Henry, tell us about growing up in that sort of environment.
Yeah, so I've been like climbing, backpacking for as long as I can remember, and I think part of that is just because, I mean, Dad, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you had to give up the bigger peaks to kind of have a family, but you still wanted to go and do stuff, and I was there, so I kind of, being the firstborn son, became his climbing partner per se. And so at first it wasn't really my choice. I was like younger than the age of reasoning, just going into the Adirondacks on weekends with my dad and like going to Little Falls and doing some rock climbs. But the older I got and the more I was able to think about it and appreciate it, I kind of learned to love the outdoors, just like ice climbing, rock climbing, attempting bigger peaks, and doing trips like the NPT.
Sure. Makes perfect sense. As a parent, too, I can totally relate to Tim's just bringing you where you're going. I have people ask me often how you get their kids into the outdoors, and my answer is always just bring them. They're your kids. Just bring them with you. It will seem normal. It will seem like that's just what we're doing, and then before you know it, they're asking you to go, and I find that to always be the case. So that's terrific. All right, cool. Well, that's an amazing story for both of you. Now let's get into the NPT. So, what made you guys decide to do this trail in particular, in the winter, no less? I know, Tim, you have a lot of winter backpacking and winter trekking experience, and was the FKT element part of the decision making, or was that just like an added bonus of completing the trail? We'll start with you, Tim.
Yeah, so we got this idea actually from somebody you know and has been on this program, Bethany Gerritsen.
Sure.
Who actually is, I believe she's about 15 or 16 years younger than I am. And we actually grew up